to start digging them up. I just started digging up some of these numbers to do this presentation. It's pretty interesting, actually. I mean, it's interesting in a good way. It's not interesting in a bad way, no.
Yeah, no, it's great, man.
That's the thing. It's always the anticipation of all these people showing up. Like, do we start? Like, at what point do we generally start?
Give him another minute. Get to 2:05. Oh, there it's 2:05.
Is it 2:00? It's true. It's 2:05 your time. Okay. Nope. Don't want to share that. Okay. Portion of screen. Interesting. I didn't realize how much Zoom is up to the game on screen sharing. I can share just my computer audio. Everyone here is probably quite talking about Zoom's features. It's pretty good. Hi guys. Okay, we're going to officially wait. We'll go to 11:07. Well, officially one more minute. 11:07/2:07/10:07 somewhere in the world. Yeah. Okay. 6. Give it another minute, and then rock and roll.
And marketing is really going to have to massage this one, Eric. They're going to have to cut out 7 minutes of you stalling.
So, stalling. I mean, I call it building momentum.
I love it.
We're getting people excited. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good to go. Whatever. 11:06 and 3 cards. 11:07 officially. Okay, guys. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for coming to hang out with Nate and I. And yeah, I guess what we're here to talk about today is the growth and the partnership and how launching on Moonbeam came to be, as well as a little bit of a Q&A and discussion around the network. So I'll let Nate introduce himself, and then I'll just jump into a little presentation. I'll share some backstory, some context, and how we got to where we are today. So Nate, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Eric. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm Nate. I lead ecosystem for Moonbeam. Eric and I go ways back in crypto land. I mean, like a year and a half, 2 years in crypto feels like 10, but happy to support this.
Yeah, thank you. Fun fact: I purchased Nate a baby book for his second board. I sent a little care package.
He did. I think at one point you said I was your best friend that you've never met before, which I thought was like very perfect for crypto, that you can have like legit friends in crypto that you've never met, you've never actually like seen before, which is pretty amazing.
And here we are. So that being said, I'll jump into a little presentation and then there. So slideshow. Can everybody see this?
I got it.
Cool. All right, so I'm going to explain how we chose Moonbeam and a little bit of backstory with how we got to where we are on this call today. And the first thing I was tasked was, okay, we need to go and figure out what blockchain we're going to be settling on. Mainly because the idea of Covalent was always to take all on-chain data and make a direct replica and make it queryable from the API. It's been the story for many years now since the company started in 2018. So the criteria was, okay, go talk to blockchains. We need something EVM. We need something with low gas fees. We need a trustworthy team, and we need data composability. I'll get into what these things mean on the next slide. So I wanted to go talk to a bunch of teams, and we talked to the Cosmos team. We talked to Cosmos, and at the time, and there was nothing EVM. They had various blockchains. They had a super trustworthy team. The team is exceptional, and they had no data composability. When I say data composability, I mean that we wanted EVM and we wanted data because the data is composable. The data on all EVM chains is pretty much the same because everyone adheres to the same standards, which is part of the beautiful part of Ethereum. If you deploy an ERC contract on Ethereum, it's the same on Ethereum as it is on Polygon, as it is on Moonbeam, et cetera, et cetera. So this is one of the first considerations and why data composability was such a big deal. It was a stack we're familiar with if it was an EVM, and the data was easy to index. So we said, this is what we're going to do. We ran through the same process with Near, with Elrond, with Algorand, with Solana, even with Polka, funny enough, and Avalanche. And Avalanche at the time, funny enough, did not have, there were no, I don't think they had a, I don't think subnets was articulated very well, and I don't think there was a clear EVM at that point. So it was really interesting to see where the space has gone, the subnets launching. And Polka, we just were not interested in building a parachain. We said, this is too much work. It's not our core competency. We're here to build a data infrastructure, not build a blockchain. So this is how we looked at this. And I think we spent 3 weeks just talking to people, just getting on calls, learning. I think I read everybody here, I read their white paper, and even some of the blockchains that are built in these protocols, I read their white papers. So I wanted to actually understand what we were going to be getting ourselves into. So we started this journey. And then somebody named Philip from something called Block Venture. So shout out to Philip. I don't think he's on this call, but he should be. Said, have you guys ever spoken to Moonbeam? And I said, what's Moonbeam? And he says, it's this Polkadot parachain. The guys are really good. The team is excellent. They're definite builders. They seem to be extremely competent. And I lovingly say this to Philip, but I was a little skeptical. I said, okay, you talk to everybody and you probably get pitched by everybody under the sun. The Block Venture guys are great. They manage universities, so university blockchain programs. They're the glue that binds them all together. So you guys get pitched a lot of stuff, but he kept saying it over and over. And I said, all right, well, let's talk to them. So we ended up talking to Moonbeam, and we were very, very, very surprised at how well we got along and how we had a lot of the same visions, and the tech was good. So in 2021, we published a 2-piece article. The first one was on CoinMarketCap's blog, which is probably buried somewhere, about how to do your due diligence and pick your blockchain. So we went through all the criteria that was listed above. And after talking to everybody, we realized this is just the best place to call the Covalent Network home for the largest section of the network, which is indexing Ethereum data and other more costly blockchains, which we'll get to in a second. So we decided to build on Moonbeam, and it's been a very collaborative and exceptionally good relationship ever since. It's kind of crazy how we did that. And I always say we made this decision. We were friends with Moonbeam before Moonbeam was cool. It's like knowing the hot girl at high school before she gets hot. This is maybe not a great metaphor, but it was sort of the funny thing. We were there and we made the decision. We made the decision in November 2020 and formally published it in April of 2022. So, or 2021, sorry. You can read this, it's on our blog. It's a pretty good blog post, I think. And there's a lot of rationale, which we're not going to dive into here. So that being said, that's where we were. That's how we ended up on Moonbeam. But now I want to shift gears to why this is exciting for Moonbeam and some of our traction that we've seen. So back to 2020, October 2020, I remember showing up and I said, okay, well, we have a bit of money. How many developers are there? And I was like, oh, there's something like 85 developers kicking around. I said, oh, that's pretty good considering crypto. So, well, how do we look at traction? It says, well, a number of active API keys. So that's the only thing we had to track at that point in time. I said, well, how big is the community? They said, oh, we've got like 300 people signed up on our Telegram. And I said, well, how many projects are there? They said, the 6 on our website. And I said, all right, well, at least we're starting somewhere. And then by April 2022, there was 27,000. So that's say, it's over 27,000 active developers. There's over 7,427. There's probably more now, active API keys. This means API keys that have turned on that are actually pulling data from Covalent. And we'll go into why that's important in a bit. The community between all of our channels is well over 100,000, including Twitter, Discord, Telegram, our email lists, everything. And active projects, now there's over 1,800. So when we say active projects, I mean projects that have projects that are actually using the API or actually pulling a consistent amount of data that have passed a threshold where we say, okay, you're active. You're not a passive participant. So what does that mean in terms of growth? So these are some of the metrics over the last 19 months. The numbers speak for themselves, right? So we're really excited about all of this because this is about to translate directly to the network, and we're about to see some of these rewards be reaped. So why is this so exciting for Moonbeam? This is where the stuff gets complicated. So on the top layer, there's applications. So applications are NFTs, taxes, wallets, all the applications which we always talk about who use Covalent. And then what they do is there's these databases. So Covalent today is a pseudo-centralized database where we're storing all of the data. Then what's happening is we are going, as what's going to happen is we're going to begin to start ingesting Ethereum data into something called a block specimen. That's going to be stored in a private IPFS. So now anybody who's running Ethereum infrastructure is going to add something called this block specimen producer, and they're going to start also storing this data, the data here in the block results, into this IPFS, and then they're going to become query operators, and they will feed them back to the NFTs, the taxes, and whoever is pulling data, right? So people are going to be able to run their own Covalent infrastructure and fulfill queries and store the data, and then these are going to go in what we're called observing proofs. Which are going to be the observation that, this has actually happened. And then there's going to be, and this is how you prevent the redundancy this is to mitigate the redundancy in the data. So there's actually proofs that have happened. And then the proof chain, which will say, okay, this is actually what, you have recorded the data and the data is all the same. With all of the rewards for all Ethereum data being paid out on Moonbeam. So that's really exciting. So that's all of the transactions that we just saw are going to get paid out on Moonbeam. So all the data, all the growth, everything specifically targeted Ethereum data. So what does that mean? This is a pretty complicated engineering diagram. So now I'm going to break it down one step further, and we're going to talk about what this means at the business level. So let's take this from abstract engineering to, okay, what does this mean in practice? So we're still a little ways away for the network being fully live and having on-chain transactions. So we need to get this part right before we can get the next part right. But at scale, this is what it will look like. So how this works today is Covalent is 100% free. Once we flip on the switch and we start actually charging people, the applications are going to take US dollars, take stablecoin, they put it in a smart contract. From there, so this is 1 to 2. I'm going to go down the list, 1 to 2. They put USD or dollars in a smart contract. Then they go and they hit the API. The API is the same way everything works today. Then what happens? The API says, hey, is there enough money for you to pull data from the API? Is there enough money in the smart contract? If yes, then all right. Well, the validators, they then fulfill the data request to the application. After that, once that's been made, the transactions go and they say the network says, okay, well, data has clearly been fulfilled. It's logged on the Moonbeam ledger, and then the USDC is released, or whatever the stablecoin is. There's a market buy from that to CQT, which is paid up to the validators. So that's how the whole thing works at scale. What we were originally going to do, which we're no longer going to do, is all the ETH data was going to be paid out on ETH, or ETH transactions were going to be paid out on Ethereum. We realized because of the gas cost, it would just be prohibitive. It would be a terrible idea. There'll be future talks in the webinars about that, but we decided this was a better business decision. So all ETH transactions are going to be paid out on Moonbeam. So people always say, okay, cool, I understand this, but what does this actually look like? So can you explain it back to a metaphor that relates to me? So I always say Covalent is building the DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever you're familiar with, the Postmates. I don't think it really matters, but we're building that of data. So sort of a stretch, but humor me for a second. So the fundamental difference is we are fulfilling data requests, whereas DoorDash is just getting food delivered. So the onboarding is the same thing. So let's look at the left side and let's look at this. So for Covalent, DoorDash, you have customers, so the people who are ordering. For Covalent, we have apps, the people who are consuming data. For DoorDash, there's the DoorDash app. For Covalent, there's the Covalent API. Restaurants are suppliers. There's restaurant suppliers, so people who provide the ingredients. Those are technically the blockchains who just feed us all the data. Then, restaurant prevents dishes. We prepare data types. Then there's a delivery person / the restaurant itself. And in this case, that's the validators. The difference is in this case, DoorDash keeps a large percentage of the revenue in US dollars, but validators keep 100% of the CQT rewards they've paid. So in practice, you could see it go through the flow chart. So money flows in, so money flows into the smart contract. The API pings the validators. There's then a market buy. The validators then say, okay, we understand this app needs data. They send ETH data. Same thing. So, if you want to order McDonald's, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, whatever it is, you still have to go pay your money. There's got to be a balance in your wallet before you can do it. You order your food and then somebody delivers it to you. So obviously there's not many differences here. It's almost the same thing. I sometimes screw up ordering food versus getting data. That's a lie. But that's how it works.
It's a hard one to remember. It's really tough.
Yeah, it's I actually do forget frequently. So this is really exciting because these are a list of projects that are building on Covalent or use the Covalent API. There's over 20,000 developers, like I said, over 1,800 projects, and over 17 countries. So it's exciting because a lot of these projects are going to start pulling data from the Covalent API. And if it's ETH data, well, then those transactions are all going to be settled on Moonbeam. So this is really exciting. And then what does this look like at scale, or what does it look like in the long run? Well, the traction that we're talking about, like I said, this is a reiteration of what we've already gone over, is there's definitely 1,800, this is, anyways, for future reference. There's over 27,000 developers, there's over 1,800 applications, there's 32 blockchains, will be 40 by the end of 2022. There'll be billions of queries, there's already today billions of queries with double-digit monthly growth rates. And we actually did a fun poll, and we realized there's more NFTs indexed than websites on the internet. That's what we actually have, which blew my mind. I didn't realize that, and I didn't realize there were that many NFT collections or NFTs as a whole, but there you go. You heard it here first. And the other thing here is obviously this is the API, but the API is really backing up our claims to the data and to the network. So this is the traction we're currently seeing that's backing up. We are making the first proof-based decentralized data middleware. So meaning that we're not just decentralizing data, we're proving that the data we're decentralizing is accurate. It solves the blockchain read scalability problem. So when blockchains scale, one of the big questions that's going on in the ETH community is how do we keep a replica, or how do we know whatever happened on chain and who's going to record it, and how do we make sure that that data is accurate? So we've actually gone and solved this problem. It's not a widely talked about problem. Everyone's still talking about transactions per second, but once you get mass adoption, it's sort of the question of who houses all of the internet's history, right? It's a great question. Like, where is everything? Where are these websites from 9 years ago? How are they still active? Does somebody have the data? Is it on somebody's hard drive? I don't know. So that's the question if you want to think about it from a slightly different lens. We've also, working on a standard data model that drives composability. I mentioned smart contract composability early on. It's very relevant. It's the ability to make data concise and consistent, so we're not all re-engineering it each time somebody wants to get data or not understand it. So we're creating data standards around this. It's the precursor for private data indexing. I think there's some standards at EVM, and there's some standards that we've already indexed, and it's sort of a good indicator of where the market's going. And then obviously, we're doing this modularly by separating blockchain data from execution and consensus. So what I mean by this is there's the blockchain data itself, and then there's the I wrote this, I did this, and then all of the other all of the validator and executional data. So we're just taking the records, and we figured out a way to separate this and parse this and keep it all very organized. So that's what we've done. And now we will go on to questions. So I hear Nate has some questions prepared. Let me know what those are. Happy to run back through any of the slides if you think it's relevant.
Yeah, no, look, I didn't want to interrupt your flow. I think even for me, I mean, we've known you guys coming up on a year and a half to almost 2 years, and the growth has been kind of crazy. I think at the time that we were working with you guys in October 2020. I think there were it was seven employees, I think, at that point. I mean, and for Moonbeam, we were relatively same size, but I think the growth has been pretty amazing to see, and just the stats that you just ran through are awesome. I mean, and I think we immediately saw the value of having this kind of collaboration in place, and that I think that the problem you're solving is one that's going to continue to grow, like moving forward, and being able to just index data properly and make sure that data is accurate is, that's probably going to be the hardest thing as these blockchains get bigger and bigger and bigger and more blockchains pop up, and keeping it all straight. So we always saw the value of this, and I'm just excited to kind of see stuff start to come online over the next period of time as you guys kind of take this live. So I remember seeing it, and I do encourage everybody to take a look at Erik's write up. I think one of the things that I'd love to pick your brain about is like why EVM? Like, why was EVM so important to you guys? I think your article talked a lot of it about it, but love to get folks to kind of understand why the EVM was so important to you guys.
Yeah, so it's a great question. We cut our 10,000 hours in EVM, right? When I remember in 2018, I was friends with Ganesh before I started working at Covalent, and I remember looking at all the on-chain data, and there was just nothing happening anywhere. There was nothing interesting. No one, for years, there was no real traction on any other chain, and there was no interest that it was going to go anywhere. And the market was all Ethereum. I think everybody even knew early on that ETH wasn't going to scale. It wasn't a big surprise when prices shot up to like $8, $9, $10 gas fees. I remember that happening. And it was this logic of saying, well, if we can't bet on Ethereum, but you can bet on a lot of the tech and a lot of the work that's been done on Ethereum. And I think that is one of the big moats here in the space. I don't know if anybody on this call went to any ETH events during 2019 or early 2020. They were awful and boring. And all it was Joe Lubin and Vitalik talking about standards, like data standards, and why they're important at scale. And they were really boring, but it got it in everyone's head that the ERC20, ERC721, 1155, et cetera, are all really important things. And those have translate to Moonbeam, they translate to Aurora, they translate to Avalanche, to Polygon, to everywhere. So I think that was a key thing, that this is a stack we understand, and it's a stack we're willing to bet. I wouldn't say bet the farm on, but we're willing to take a serious bet that this is the future, and it's something we can plan and build around. And as you're seeing today, the EVM is sort of the standard. You're seeing some chains that are 2017, 2018 era, which might not have had that much traction, all launching an EVM or something, so they can allocate resources to move those treasuries around. So it's kind of interesting. I think you guys had a lot of the same things when you were looking at, do we go full substrate, or do we go substrate EVM? I think you guys had a lot of the same gut reactions, and that's why I think we saw the future very similarly.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I think you're right. And I mean, I was going to ask, like, why not build a parachain, or like, what were some of the things that you didn't really care about, but you kind of jumped in and covered a lot of that? Were there other things that you kind of thought about in the selection criteria that you didn't really care about, or that didn't make sense for you guys?
Yeah, I think because we were talking about building. I remember talking to the Web3 Foundation. And they were saying, "Oh, why don't you guys just build a parachain?" We're like, "Why would we ever build it? Like, this is a lot of work, and we're lazy, simple people who just want to worry about data." No, but like it's a big task, right? So we're like, this is not a conversation for now. And we said, I think we just need to ship this and get this thing over the line. And it already took us longer than anticipated, but we've done it right, which is the most important part. And it was we didn't want to learn substrate. We didn't want to build a lot of things, and we just wanted to focus on what we're really good at, which is data pipelines. So that was one of the key considerations. It was that a lot of other projects wanted to throw new and novel things at us, that we said we have a big enough challenge ahead of us. We don't want to overextend ourselves in ways that aren't totally necessary. So that was one of the things that you guys, it was a conversation you guys openly said, okay, what are you doing? What do you need from us to make it possible? And it was less of a, here's other things we could do, here's ways we could help. But I think it was just it was a collaborative conversation. It always has been.
Gotcha. And one word I would not use to describe Ganesh would be lazy. So that's always a good one. I'll make sure to
yeah.
He'll hear about that. Don't worry.
Yeah, he'll say I'll just lazy. Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's like, I think
I'm just joking.
You can't chew off more than you could actually deliver. So yeah.
No, I hear you. No, like I think and for anybody on the call that, isn't really aware of what Moonbeam is, I can give the quick 30-second elevator pitch just to make sure folks kind of can connect the dots. And so, Moonbeam has created, the EVM basically for the Polka ecosystem. And so we are parachain, basically our layer 1 blockchain connected to the Covalent Network that, our sole goal and focus is just to provide the best EVM implementation possible. And so, when Erik says, they're lazy, it wasn't that they were lazy, they were just, I think, pragmatists in terms of like the way that they approached it was like, we have a huge hurdle to kind of tackle in terms of being able to actually index all this data and, do it right. We just need a place where we can take code that's, already pretty solid and, a code base that we understand, the tooling around it that, that folks need, whether it's, Remix, Hard Hat, Truffle, whatever it is. The pieces are just there. We don't need to like reinvent the wheel. We're already doing that on the data indexing. We just need something that's very straightforward. So, that's kind of where we came in, was just providing this environment that was, relatively, seamless, straightforward in terms of, if you've built on Ethereum, you can build on Moonbeam very easily. It looks and feels very similar. And, obviously, Erik kind of pointed out some of the highlights around, cheaper gas fees, faster execution, things along those lines. So I just wanted to give you a hard time because I've never heard you describe yourself as lazy. I would never characterize you as lazy, Erik, that's for sure. So you talked a lot about kind of what you guys were up to in terms of like the tech. Now, what types of applications are generally like, what is there like a niche or focus that you're seeing the most growth in, or where are you guys kind of playing for the most part?
Great question. I think it's interesting. I always say I talked to a lot of projects that there's the different phases. We talked to a lot of people in the research phase when they say, okay, I need to figure out what I'm going to do and how I'm going to get the data and what type of data I'm going to need to track. In order either to do my research or when my product is live, and we talk to people then. We talk to people when they're in an MVP stage. So this includes a lot of different verticals. So we see a lot of wallets get built, dashboarding products. We see lately, it's interesting, a lot of news sites, not news sites in the traditional way, news sites in the sense where they're saying, okay, we do a GameFi specific newsletter, right? And so we just want to get all the GameFi data consistently in our own dashboards or our own tickers or whatever it is. And we see stuff like that. You see a lot of wallets, NFT marketplaces. So everyone, it really is, it's all over the map. For what we see in the type of developers, there's DEXs, there's DeFi protocols, there's governance for on-chain metrics, right? So don't know who's voting in your DAO or not. So it really is all over the place. But we're starting to see there's no emergence. Like it really is everywhere. So yeah, I had more I wanted to say, but I realized I could talk about this for like 5 or 10 minutes. But you're seeing, dashboarding products and really everything. So it's exciting. But yeah.
Gotcha. And I think you had mentioned earlier on in the presentation, folks kind of focus on TVL, but what are the metrics that you guys kind of focus on, and what are the things that you kind of judge success by that you kind of internally talk about a lot?
I'm going to go back a couple slides here because I think it's super interesting. So this is, like I said, the API. So people are putting money, they're buying an API, call. Or they're paying for their API calls, and then this goes to the validators, right? So if you're staking, this is actually how you're going to get paid, is when people have money in a smart contract and it goes to the API. So the whole reason of these metrics and why these metrics are exciting is it's because this means traction and this means API calls, and this is not us preaching at some point in the future when this is live and this happens. This is saying, hey guys, this is today's data. This is not 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or if we ever onboard another, 100 million active participants, this will be the thing that scales. This is saying, this is grounded in rational thought, and these are real metrics. So in the blockchain world, the number one core metric is on-chain transactions. You assume on-chain transactions mean the token price will move, and that's why people get excited. And that's you judge a successful blockchain based generally on number of transactions or active wallets. It's a handful of others. For us, the leading indicator is number of API calls. That's the number one thing. So if you have lots of API calls, you have lots of traction. And these are some of the things that you can assume would drive API calls. So we've been quiet on a lot of fronts for the last, I'd say, pretty much year, or for let's say 9 months. on a lot of things. But the one topic we've been hyper focused on is this, because if you get these metrics right, and go to market, retention, and reach, and all these things, those are probably the most important things. Is building the product, and then letting people speak over itself and seeing the growth. So this is how we've been focusing our time.
Gotcha. And so how many? I think you might have said, how many networks are you guys connected to today?
20 something. So we have 20, we have 32, including test nets, and we're going to have probably pushing 40 by the end of this quarter. That's exciting because, like I said, a lot of the stats that I shared are focused heavily on Ethereum data. There's obviously projects on Moonbeam, projects on Moonriver, projects on other chains that are also using us for their data. But ETH is the first one we're decentralizing, and so it just shows the opportunity of what's that going to look like when all these other blockchains start to get decentralized. And there's all these replicas all over the place. So it's a start. At some point the decentralized Moonbeam data will get there, but you just got to start somewhere, right? ETH is easy because it's almost like it's no man's land, right? It's just easy. It's sort of easy, but it's the hardest one at the same time. So that's why we're starting there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it makes sense. I mean, that's probably that's got to be. I wouldn't say the majority, but when folks refer to it as mainnet, we'll talk to teams and be like, "Well, we're launching on mainnet," but mainnet is just Ethereum versus Moonbeam is completely different. When folks call it something like mainnet, then yeah, I mean, it's the place that I think the majority of things are continuing to kind of build, at least first, and kind of go from there. And so it completely makes sense to start with that. And we're excited to see how that kind of rolls. And now, can people stake their CQT today?
It's coming. So the first thing is there's I'll just keep using these slides. So there's going to be a handful of validators that are launching to support Covalent. So these are people who are doing ETH infrastructure. So they're going to work. You're going to be able to delegate to some of these validators, and then they may have capacity. They'll have capacity limits, but we're going to come up with ways, to get people on a wait list, and then other things we can do in the meantime that'll get people excited. But yeah, first is Ethereum. There's only a handful, but each time we roll out new networks, there should be updates and a larger queue and openings to actually to do this.
Gotcha. Are you guys mostly focusing on EVM networks right now, or are you looking at some of the others that maybe don't have EVMs to be able to? I assume it's probably a larger haul to kind of go and deploy those, but I forget where you guys kind of sit on that.
I think we're focused mainly on EVM right now. We've done a lot of work in Solana. So if you actually want to get our most popular endpoint is Balance's endpoint. So it's mainly used by wallets. So anybody who wants to know what's in a wallet, what how many transactions are sitting in a DeFi project or something, what's the balance of anything, right? So that's our most popular endpoint. That is live on Solana today. We have a bit of work to do to get that over the line. Near is on the horizon. Near is near, let's say, but it's still a whiles out. Elrond also, and then we've talked a lot about Rust based and WASM based, so in the Polkadot ecosystem, about how to do this. I think the big problem right now, I think even the Polkadot people admit this, and the Substrate people admit it, is there's no data standard. So it's everyone's doing things different. My personal opinion is somebody has to come in, and maybe this is us, maybe it's us in collaboration with somebody else, and sort of corral people to do it. But I think once the data gets more standardized, a lot of these ecosystems are going to scale really well. I think that's how that's why I think the EVM just has this massive moat. Is the data standard, so it makes interoperability with all these other projects like Covalent really easy.
Yeah. Look, I tend to agree with you. I mean, I think the good and the bad with Substrate is that it is very powerful and it enables you to do pretty much whatever you want, which is great. But I think when it comes to standardization, it can get a little messy in some ways. I mean, if you look at kind of our account key structure, it looks different than pretty much everybody else's because we focus on compatibility with Ethereum accounts and keys versus Substrate's accounts and keys. And so that's just one example of something that, it gives you the power to do whatever you want from a layer one perspective, but you can start kind of fracturing this kind of connectivity, or maybe not connectivity, but at least the standardization between some of these different chains. So cool. And I think that was the end of my questions. Did you have anything else you wanted to run through?
No, I think we could just go down. What am I going? it's question time. So I think we have some other Q&A here. Covalent is on Buyuk Hedefi. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Is that Turkish? Yes, I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. So I'm going to skip that for the time being. If somebody can type it up in English, I'd love that. How is the Atom chain progress going? We haven't done anything in Cosmos, not for any malicious reason. The Atom is more of the token for the Cosmos ecosystem. And it's more of saying, you know, when Kava, when Terra, when some of these other things, and the data is all bespoke and everything is different. So there is no, there is no right. I should have said like this here. Anyways, would you like to answer that question? Yeah. So there's no way to deal with this right now, or it's something we're cognizant of, and we'll put together a plan, but it's not happening yet. Is there going to be a store somehow similar where devs can deploy protocols / chains? How is that progressing? Yeah, we've been proactively working on something called Class C endpoints. So Class C endpoints is going to allow developers to build their own endpoints on Covalent. So, you know, for some context, Covalent is a direct replica of all of these blockchains. And there's certain endpoints which are exposed through Class A endpoints, which are the most popular ones, and something called Class B endpoints, which are built in-house by us. The problem is we can't build every Class B endpoint for every application. And we're well aware of this. It's impossible. It's just you know, build an endpoint for every point of the blockchain. So what we're doing is we're building something that's going to be launched later in the year. Knock on wood. If this is somebody in 6 months is going to say, is it live yet? And I'll say, let's say send that recording, but no. We're launching something later in the year that will address that. So people will be able to build their own endpoints. How this will work is it'll create a sort of marketplace where, you know, once transactions and all these things are live, it will pay back people who have built out these endpoints, right? So if you're buying, let's say, an API call for, let's say, general numbers, $1,000, that's insane. That'd be insanely expensive an API call. But let's say, you know, 1 cent, it might be, you know, 0.25 cents goes to the people who built the endpoint, and then the rest goes to the validator. So it's almost like an app store, but work in progress. Can CQT make an NFT safe somehow? Great question, actually. I'll answer that. Great question. So sort of, we have the NFT data, we make it usable, and it's up to the applications and what they want to do to make it safe. So there's a company called BitsCrunch. A lot of their data comes from us, and they're NFT wash trading forensics. So they're making NFTs safe, and they're doing that. We're giving them the data, and we're making it easily accessible and usable as possible. And with the way we give them the data is how they're actually able to build products. So we're making the data easy, cheap, and fast. Other people are making it usable. So if you have ideas, let me know. Build something. Like let's start a Twitter thread around things we could build to make NFTs safer. Like a wallet that holds NFT and link. Yeah, I don't like to. Yeah, so this is more, like I said, you can use this with wallets. You can build anything. It's really up to people and what they want to put into their ecosystems or into their wallet, in how they want to use the NFT data that we give them. Is it to running Covalent by my own, just instead of pulling from Covalent. So yeah, so what we're going for is the whole point of this network is you're going to be able to have your CQT at the beginning delegated to somebody else who runs the professional infrastructure. So this is mainly people who are already running ETH nodes. At some point, it'll be Moonbeam nodes or Moonbeam infrastructure. Whoever's running existing infrastructure, you delegate to them, and you can get rewards. And so what'll happen is people use the API. Instead of us giving them the data, other people are going to give them the data. So that is definitely a work in progress. It's coming. When you'll be able to run it on your own, I don't know. I think it depends on the specifications. It depends on what's required. There's no clear-cut answer today, but there will be a clear-cut answer at some point in the future. And if not, you know, once the network is up and running, it might just be a governance mode of say, hey, how could we further decentralize this or bring more people into the fold to run infrastructure? So those are governance questions probably at a later point in time tied to infrastructure questions. But I think if the market is there and there's enough people who have committed or pledged or, you know, something, it'll probably get done. How will this observing proof work? That is for a different call, Daniel. Thank you for asking. That is a different call, yeah. We'll be able to bridge CQT to Moonbeam at launch. Yes, so there's a bridge called Nomad. I think Nomad's live. Yeah, definitely live. Nomad is live, so we are going to be people will bridge CQT through the Nomad bridge. The reason why we've chose to use Nomad is because Nomad keeps contract composability. So let's just say somebody takes CQT from Covalent ETH to Moonbeam, and then on their own volition, without our input, they want to take it to Avalanche and start a pool on Avalanche. That will be up to them. It'll be their decision. That's how it works. We don't need to be involved, and then there'll be contract composability once they cross the bridge and once it comes back. So that's a really big deal. It sounds trivial, but it's very important, and a lot of bridges don't follow this. So that's why people might bridge assets through the same bridge to different chains, but it won't be the same. So it's a really difficult problem to solve, and they've done an excellent job. So there'll be further talks about that later. But yeah, great team. We're really excited to work with them as well. Can you expand on how the free API tier is going to work? Yes, the API is free. It's currently free. I believe it will stay free for a very, very long time. The only thing I could see happening is that there'll be interest to paid tier. I think we're at a point now where there's enough inbound requests for people asking for higher rate limits and more data. And our question back to them is how much you got, how much you're willing to pay, because that has to go, that needs to be attributed directly back to the network. So we're at a point where we're having these conversations. We have more than enough inbound of people asking this, who are saying, hey, I built this MVP or I built this product, how can I give you money? It doesn't mean we're going to turn off the free version, but I think at some point in time, it'll come down to a governance vote on how some of these things work. So for now, this is, it's free. It's free for the foreseeable. For the time being, we may increase the API calls. We increase the rate limits. We may decrease it, but at scale, once the network is fully live, and all validators are running all replicas of all chains and filling all queries, I think it's going to come up to them and perhaps a governance vote for what they want to do and how they see this rolling out. Because these are costs directly to them, so it'll be some loss of revenue, but they also understand that you need to get people building and get people excited, and the more people that build and are excited, the more likely people are to ship something at scale and get it to work. We're actually to that point. Actually, it's funny. We've seen companies that build something at a hackathon, or they build a super basic MVP, and then they get more traction, and then and it's free for a while. Then they come back and they say, hey, how do we scale this? How do we give you more money? How do we pay for this? And they're great problems to have. We just need to be able to answer those in a better capacity that drives value back to the network. So that's what we're very focused on. And then Isa, I'm sorry, I don't know how to answer this question. Yes, Gabriel, CQT will be on Moonbeam. So we are going to bridge some CQT ourselves. And then I know there's lots of token holders that are also going to be bridging CQT to the Moonbeam network. So these are things that are happening. They're coming hot and fast in the next couple of weeks. So if you have CQT, you'll be able to get it on Moonbeam. You'll be able to bridge it yourself, or perhaps acquire it yourself, acquire some net new Moonbeam, up to you. But there likely won't be as much CQT on Moonbeam as there was on ETH. So we'll leave that up to your discretion. So that's it. I don't have anything to say. Nate, do you have any final parting words for our dear audience?
Speechless, Eric. I'm speechless. No, this was great. Excited. I think we have another go round in a couple of weeks, and excited to see how everything progresses. And it's great to see this finally moving forward. Something we talked about a year and a half ago is coming to fruition, and it's awesome to see.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited too. I'll answer the last questions before we hop. Will we be able to transfer from KuCoin? I think the thing to do would be, I don't know if Moonbeam is on KuCoin, it is. So probably be withdraw Moonbeam or Glimmer and then swap it on a DEX for CQT. We're going to figure out the DEXs soon. That's for a later call. So it's coming. And how can we use Web2 storage like YouTube? We're not focused on that. So that would be something like Arweave, Filecoin, some of these guys. It's coming. Will the business operation public? Everything's pretty public. I mean, there's nothing we're really hiding. If people ask questions, we're pretty open. So if somebody DMs me or tweets at me something, I'll generally be honest and just reply. If I don't have an answer, I don't have an answer. That's as honest as I can really be, or as public as it gets. But yeah. All right, guys, I will thank everybody for showing up. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your busy days, busy weeks. Nate, thank you again, as always.
Always happy to hop on, Eric.
Okay, guys, pleasure. We'll talk soon. Thank you very much for showing up.
See ya.